Hello and welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is the Questionable Garage. And this is going to be a little bit different of an episode. What I'm really hoping for is at the end of this, we've had a good discussion and you've learned something. You bookmark this and hopefully you never have to come back and watch this again. Not very good for views, but I've made a pretty big mistake or two. Honestly, about 3 mistakes. And it's something where I've never really sat down and thought about it. It's not something you do research into. And I'm hoping that in a slightly entertaining and educational way, I can teach you things I hope you never have to use. Well, what do I mean by all of that? Well, I was on my way home from the airport with my wife. We were involved in an accident. Not any fault of our own. But that has been a process. It is still ongoing. We won't be able to go too much into details of my specific case because it's unfortunately had to elevate to that level of representation. Possibly some of it could have been avoided with different steps early on. But regardless, I want to go through and really cover in depth some topics that I wish I knew more about. Things that you should say or you shouldn't say. That will make your life a lot easier because if we're being honest, at the end of the day, the insurance company doesn't care about you. They're going to pretend they care about you, but their goal is to pay the least amount possible. And that's even still one of the fights. They are not even close to 60% of a fair market value of the vehicle that was totaled at their fully at-fault driver. Now, also, in full disclosure and openness, if I was to sit here and tell you just what I did wrong, you're not going to learn necessarily a whole lot. So this is a unique episode where I have a friend with a lot of experience in a particular field that we're going to have come in and utilize his knowledge in the particular field of dealing with insurance companies, both in just a property loss and the unfortunate injury side of things, and how those don't always show up the moment you're in the accident. Now, don't you worry. I'm not just getting a stuffy suit. I've got a friend that maybe is a slight enthusiast of a Chevrolet Corvette C6. And if you have been anywhere near the route of a Dustball Rally, you've heard it. I'm fairly certain I've heard it here in Georgia and he's in Texas. So guys, I really hope at this point you realize if I'm here telling you something or trying to share a brand with you, it's something I really am personally going to use. That's a real big factor whenever I do pick a brand. I make sure it's something I would spend my own money on. So let me introduce today's sponsor, Factor, with their ready-to-heat and eat meals. Now, if you somehow have been under a rock and have not heard about Factor, Factor are ready-to-heat and eat meals delivered directly to your doorstep, fresh, never frozen. These aren't just your average TV dinners. These are chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to help and supplement your lifestyle. It's not just convenience. They really are built around making sure you're getting the energy and the protein and everything you need to make your body the best it can be. Fast food is convenient, but it's expensive and it's not very good for you. With Factor, you get more convenience, you're getting way better tasting food, and you're saving money. They have selections of over 100 different recipes. And if you're looking for higher protein options, almost all of their meals have more than 30 grams of protein, some having as much as 53 grams. And in their new protein lineup, you're getting short ribs, you're getting bison sausage. There's just all kinds of great stuff. You should check it out on the website. And if you're looking for more than just amazing meals, they've got smoothies, snacks, all kinds of meal plans to help supplement whatever fitness goals you've got. GLP support, calorie smart, gluten, vegan free. You're going to find what you need to be healthy. Now, one of our requirements is always to eat one of the meals on camera. You've seen me eat the Factor meals a lot. I love them. You want to come in, buddy?
What you got over here, Jared?
This is my buddy James. He comes around quite a bit. Have you ever had a Factor meal before?
I've never had a Factor meal.
You were really excited to pick out some barbecue chicken, so
That sounds good. Let's see what we got.
we put it in the microwave for 2 minutes.
We got
Let it
some-
cool off a little bit. What do you think?
That's really good.
Now, when we're saying this is his first Factor, like,
Literally my first bite of factor meal.
On camera.
That's good.
Better than drive-through?
For sure better than drive-through.
All right, try the chicken. I didn't get you a knife, though, so, I mean, might just stab it. Oh, how about that for tender chicken? What do you think? Approved?
That's pretty good. I like that.
So if you guys are ready to try Factor, you really should. They are phenomenal meals. I'm going to need to use my own link. So if you're ready to jump on board and give Factor a try, head on over to factor75.com. You're going to get 50% off your first box, and you're going to get free breakfast for a year with that subscription.
Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase.
And if your friend just stole your box of food, like me, head on over to factor75.com and use code questionablefb50 during checkout. You're going to get 50% off that first box and free breakfast for a year. Because they got, breakfast, smoothies, snacks. They got everything to fill your needs. James, I need that. Factor75.com/questionablefb50. James, link in the description, use that. James, come on, man. So now that you've seen his car, let's meet my friend, Robert White.
Hello, everybody.
All right, now, just to get this out, Dwayne, put it up on the screen. This is meant to be entertaining and educational, but this is not legal advice. Maybe I should let my friends say that, but just getting that out. Hopefully I'm entertaining you a little bit. Hopefully Robert's a little entertaining, but this is just meant to be a guide of should you seek local legal counsel and advice. So, Robert, tell everyone, why would I be calling you in this particular situation?
So Jared's calling me in this situation because I'm a lawyer. I know Jared through Car Things and Dustball Rally is where we first met. I've got a 2008 Corvette Z06 that's turned up to 11, and that's how Jared and I initially bonded. And then I'm here today as with my injury lawyer advice. I'm a licensed attorney. I've been licensed for over 15 years in the state of Texas. One of the main focuses of my practice is injury law, and Jared recently had a incident, if you will, that requires my expertise, and so that's why I'm here to talk to you guys today.
So, and again, I'm not going too much into my case because it's ongoing, but what I love about Robert, every time I send him a message or even ask him a question, it's always, hey, I'm not your lawyer. This is just a friend. Like, it's amazing when you have a good lawyer, someone who actually is passionate about law, how much they bring that up to just make sure they're doing things right, because you want to help a lot of people. And it's interesting how much lawyers are given a blood-sucking reputation when I think it's the insurance companies.
It's 100% the insurance companies, and it always has. However, unfortunately, the insurance companies have done a better job at PR, making us look like the bloodsuckers. We don't help ourselves with our billboards. I don't have a billboard. I am not a billboard lawyer. I'm not a billboard lawyer. I call myself a Lincoln lawyer.
Lincoln. It's not to say that there's not good insurance companies and bad lawyers, but yeah. So regardless, to not make this take forever, I kind of work through a series of questions, things that I really should have known a little bit better, have done a little bit better through the accident. We're going to take you through from the start to finish, someone who's been doing this 15 plus years, what you need to do. So an accident has just happened. You've been hit. Someone pulls out through stop traffic, hits you. You looked at your phone, ran a red light, hit someone. What's step one, Robert? What's the very first thing you should do after stopping the car, putting it into park?
Step one is safety, right? Safety is of my utmost concern. It's the first responders' utmost concerned. Take an inventory. Do you need? Am I hurt? Do I feel pain? Are the vehicles disabled? Is my vehicle disabled? Do I need to call 911? If you think you need to call 911, call 911. First responders are there. They're happy to show up to the scene, even if it's not what I would call catastrophic injuries. And so first step is safety. Do a physical inventory. Are you okay? Can you move your arms and legs? Do you feel any pain? If you feel okay, then the next step would be, can I move the vehicles, right? Can I move my vehicle? Can the other driver move their vehicle and move the vehicles off the roadway? Most states have a law that states if you're involved in a collision and the vehicles are operable and movable, you must move them off the road. Now, it's not an enforced law. I've never personally seen anybody receive a ticket for it, but it's just good common sense. Especially some of the more common things we see is if you get, a rear end fender bender is what they call them on, say, a highway and stop and go traffic, right? If you feel it and it's not a big fiery car accident, and you know somebody hit you, or you hit somebody else, most of the time the correct course of action is to maybe gesture to the other driver and then pull off into the breakdown lane.
Now, before moving the vehicles, let's say it's minor accident, you're able to move them. Should we take pictures? Should we take video? What should we document before in a minor collision before you move them? Is it worthwhile to do a quick video walk around, couple quick pictures just to document it for investigation purposes? Or if it's that minor, it shouldn't be an issue? Or what would you recommend?
Minor collision, get out of the roadway, right? A minor collision, get out of the roadway. If it's a minor collision, there's a potential that you wouldn't be making an injury claim and you're just making a property damage claim for the property damage to your vehicle. Or if it's your fault, then then your insurance company will pay for the property damage claim. So if it's a minor collision and there's no obvious injury, get your vehicle out of the roadway. If the traffic's not too heavy, if you're not injured, if you're not seriously injured, or you don't think you're seriously injured, then absolutely take photographs. If there's witnesses, if you can find witnesses, get their information. A lot of times in my business, police officers in the crash report, so in Texas it's called a CR3, a Texas Driver's Crash Report Form CR3. And the officers quite often don't put witness information in those police reports. For me, I find them in the 911 calls. I find them, there's something called a call detail sheet, which is essentially an electronically documented copy of the incident, including a 911 call, including the officer's entries to a certain degree on their in-car laptop. In Texas, we call them mobile data terminals, MDTs. So there's some of that information, but I've been able to, I've been able to find witnesses by being diligent.
Regarding witnesses, sometimes what Robert described having to get him is what you'll need, because right after the accident, I had multiple people say, man, he pulled out right in front of you. The cop showed up and I said, hey, do you guys mind giving a statement to the officer? And they're like, oh no, we were inside. We just heard it. So for whatever reason, sometimes things change. So having someone who's able to access things that you don't know how to access, incredibly valuable. So,
yeah, and gas station, I've gotten evidence from gas station cameras, right? There's a lot of gas stations or convenience stores on major intersections, and a lot of times they will have outward-facing cameras that just happen to get like an intersection, and I've been able to go and get tapes from gas stations.
So for me, in my particular accident, my vehicle was pushed off to the shoulder. His was fully disabled. We didn't have to call the police. They heard the accident in the parking lot, so we kind of skipped a couple steps there. We couldn't move vehicles, and the cops were there before us. What would you say, you're now in a safe spot, what is the most common mistake you're going to see someone make? What should you say or not say, and what's the most likely thing you're going to do wrong in that first couple seconds of going to the other driver or that first moment?
Well, let's talk about your situation. So in that situation where it's a fairly significant car wreck, the vehicles are disabled, I would say perhaps go check on the other driver and see if they're okay. Do you need EMS? And do that. I would not talk about in a more serious collision. I wouldn't start talking about liability. Wait till you get till the officer comes and speaks with you about the facts of the collision. And then when it comes time to speak about the facts of the collision to the responding officer, keep it simple, stupid. Okay? I was on this road heading this direction, and here's what happened. The other driver was on this road going this direction, and here's what happened. Because officers are, oftentimes, if they're getting ready to prepare a report, they've just got a small hand pad. And so they're trying to take down what you're saying. And the more information you give them, the less likely it is to wind up in the report. So keep it, as it relates to the recitation of the facts of the collision, always keep it simple.
Right. And one thing, I thankfully, I don't think I did this. I didn't see the report, but I know probably shouldn't speak in absolutes. Other than the fact that I was traveling this way, I was going this speed, make sure you know the speed limit, and, just don't lie, but also don't say things like, I don't remember, or is that not as big of a problem?
It's hard to say, and I think it's really fact specific. When I'm talking with my clients and we're talking about things that I don't want you to say, what I don't really want as a lawyer is for you to guess when it comes to quantifiable things, right? And without getting too nerdy in physics, time, speed, and distance are the things that I don't want you guessing in a quantifiable way. In other words, I don't want you to say, I saw this person 4 seconds ago or 5 seconds ago, or I was traveling and I was on this road for exactly 5 seconds. And the distance between here and here is exactly, 89 feet, or I was going exactly 35 miles an hour. Because the reality is you don't know. You just don't. You don't know exactly, because if it comes down to the math, and it comes down to your math, and your math is wrong, you could do yourself a disservice, because they will get accident reconstruction. One party may get accident reconstructionists involved, and they're going to use time, speed, and distance against you. So the one thing that I always say is don't guess. Number one, don't guess. And number two, to a degree, don't speak in absolutes, but don't speak in quantifiable numbers. Don't speak in numbers. This many seconds, this many feet, this many miles per hour. A lot of times, most car collisions happen within a mile of the house, right? And so the chances of, if something happens within a mile of your home, the chances are what the speed limits are, right? So I know when I leave my neighborhood, it's 30 miles an hour. When I turn right, it's 40 miles an hour. And then when I cross the first light, it's 35 miles an hour. Then when I get on the access road, it goes up to 45. I know all the speed limits. And that's partly just because I'm a nerd, right? But generally speaking, on surface streets, we have a general idea about what the speed limits are. In Texas, your speed is whether or not your speed is reasonable, right? Even if the speed limit on the road says 40 miles an hour, well, if everybody on that road is doing 50, if the flow of traffic is 50 miles an hour, the flow of traffic is considered reasonable, right? So, I tell my clients, if you don't know, don't say. Just say you were going with the flow of traffic. If that's what's true, right? If you're going a little faster, you're going a little faster. If you're going a little slower, you're going a little slower. But again, use qualitative terms. I was going with the flow of traffic. I was going a little faster than the flow of traffic. I was going a little slower than the traffic. Well, how fast exactly? I don't know how fast I was going. I wasn't staring at my speedometer when the collision happened. As most of the time, we're not.
So that may be another bonus in that, and fairly certain in my initial discussion was, I saw the driver appear from the stop lane of traffic. I hit the brakes as quickly as I could. We impacted, and my vehicle was pushed to the right. So that, on a lawyer's side, it's all factual. What was interesting is he claimed I was going extremely fast, which I can promise I wasn't. The type of accident I was in is mine and my wife's number one biggest fear. I will have everyone call me a jerk for never letting someone through a stop turn lane into an open lane because of this kind of accident. You have someone pulling out, creeping along, and the speed limit's 35. I was legitimately between 33 and 35 going to a green light, and they suddenly appear out of an SUV. You don't have reaction time. So, I'll be a jerk all day long and never let you merge through a lane like that because you're going to drive. Because the guy who let the guy through, he went on with his day. He's got no part of it. He's like, well, that sucks for them, and left the scene, which he has no legal responsibility to be there. So be truthful. Don't speak in, direct absolutes. And like you said, just the number one thing, don't make up a story, because at the end of the day, if what you say makes no sense, they're probably going to find out, and that's going to be a lot worse for you.
Absolutely. And the thing that I see a lot in my business is oftentimes an at-fault driver immediately at the scene will accept some culpability, if not all culpability, and but then if an injury claim is made or there's a property damage claim, and either a claims process gets started or a lawsuit process gets started, then they change their tune. I've had instances where I figured out where I made a determination that my client wasn't necessarily being completely truthful, and for me, for something like that, I get rid of those. I fire those people. Right? If my clients aren't being truthful, I fire them. But if you did something and the collision's your fault, then just admit it was your fault. I wasn't paying attention. Lack of attention is one of the largest causes of collision. Nowadays, it's because of, phones. Smartphones in the car are lethal.
Yeah, they're terrible. So now we're going to move on to kind of the next most important thing, and what has kind of, honestly, the reason we're making this video. I'm not able to work on cars right now. I'm hobbling around a lot because I felt fine at the accident scene. Now, both my wife and I, we impacted our shins on the dashboard. That was noted in the accident report that we were reported injured without on-site treatment. If you feel anything, I would say make sure you mention it. But the fact that we didn't go off in an ambulance, is that detrimental to us, or is the fact it took 2 weeks for me to finally realize my knee is twice the size of the other one, maybe I should go see a doctor? How does that affect claims? What timelines? What should someone really take seriously even if they're at fault in an accident? What should they do on the medical care side of things?
First and foremost, if there's if there's EMTs or paramedics on the scene, let them do your job. Let them do their job. Let them check you out. Don't refuse the medical care. However, I understand the consternation a lot of people have about that, because an ambulance ride, a relatively short ambulance ride from the scene to a hospital can be in the thousands of dollars if you don't have health insurance. Treatment at an ER, even just to get checked out, can also run in the thousands of dollars. And we could almost have an entire episode on overbilling emergency room care in car accidents, but we won't get there right now. So I can understand the daunting of, oh my God, an ER, ambulance ride from the scene to the hospital, an ER visit, maybe they do some radiographic imaging, MRI, CT scans, X-rays. Next thing you know, you've got a multi-$1,000 ER bill, and what am I going to do with that, right? And I absolutely understand somebody's desire to not do that, somebody that wouldn't want to do that. But if an EMT's telling you need to go, you might need to go. Now, sometimes if you're very seriously injured, you're not going to have a choice. They're going to take you, against your wishes, or maybe even without your verbal written consent, because it's an emergency situation. But always err on the side of caution with medical treatment at the scene. And then as it relates to car wrecks, one of the big things people get, and I'll touch on Jared's injury in a minute, but the biggest thing is the thing that I see day in, day out is rear end auto collisions and whiplash injuries. And the problem is whiplash has been poo-pooed by the car insurance industry, is everybody's just faking it. You're fine in 4 to 6 weeks, and you don't even need any medical treatment. And the data just doesn't say that. The empirical data relating to spinal column injuries in car accidents is the polar opposite. I mean, a simple car wreck case can have life-changing consequences for people. And one of the biggest issues is, especially, older, chubbier guys like me and Jared, probably, if not definitely, have some kind of pathology in the discs in our bodies, right? And the things that affect us the most, generally, from what I've seen, are the neck, the cervical spine, and then your lower lumbar, like L4, 5, S1, those areas, right? Because when a disc presses against the nerve, that's in your neck. That's when you get the tingling and numbness in your fingers. You lose mobility, you can lose strength, and you can just have generalized neck pain. And then same thing with the spine. If you got a disc pressing down there on your spinal cord, it can cause numbness and tingling in your legs and loss of sensation. Now, I'm 45 years old. I played sports, all growing up. I've lifted weights most of my life, and so it's very likely that I have some pathology in my discs in my spinal column. Never been in a car wreck before, but it's very possible that I could, if I got rear-ended, that it could cause an asymptomatic pathology to become symptomatic. And so it's important to pay attention on those things and go seek medical attention as quickly as possible, as soon as you get the onset of symptoms.
So what you're really, don't just go to a doctor to go to the doctor, but if you have any doubt, like this is where I 100% did something wrong, where I noticed I was walking a little bit off, but I just figured it was bruised shins. I was like, bumped our shins, it's going to be a little bit off. And again, it went on for 2 weeks. Don't be the person that goes in with absolutely nothing, but if you suspect something, it is absolutely valid to go and get looked at. So I'm sitting in the doctor's office. Is there anything I should or shouldn't say?
So one of the big things in injury claims is documentation of injury. And so when you go see a medical professional, you need to say, I was in a motor vehicle collision on such and such date, and I hit I hit my legs on the dashboard, and I've had pain in my knee ever since. Right? Again, keep it simple, stupid. Always keep it simple.
And then I would say you probably don't want to go into the doctor and then say, my lawyer said I should come see you. That probably is not the smartest thing to say.
I don't, one of the problems that, kind of more broadly is access to medical care. And so because I'm in the injury field and because I've been doing this, I've been a licensed lawyer for, I think, 16 years now. But I've been in the business over 25 years. And so over this, 2.5 decade period of time, I've built a network. I have this network of medical providers that treat people that are in collisions. And so if somebody calls me and says, hey, I've been in a collision, I'm injured, what do? I say, well, do you want me to represent you? And if you do want me to represent you, I can certainly, I could get you access to medical care. And so, but is that what you want to do? Are you injured? And do you want to go through this process? Because this is a difficult process. It's a long, difficult, and arduous process. That's what I would do is, if I get involved, if somebody calls me because they've been injured, I ask what happened, and I ask, what hurts? What hurts? How long does it hurt? How much does it hurt? And do you want to get medical treatment? And here's the process. Here's the claims and potential litigation process. And then is that something you want to go through?
So just to pair it, not, again, avoiding too many details because mine's ongoing. That's exactly my same experience. I feel like if you're going to someone who generally wants to represent you, you're not, if they're saying, these are people I would recommend, they're not telling you to go there. They're just saying, he's got 15 years of dealing with stuff. And my initial practice, my wife has been the insurance carrier and she's in between jobs. So I'm out of pocket. Thankfully, I'm blessed that I can afford the out of pocket. But I went to a doctor that respected that, and he was kind of reluctant initially to do full imaging. And I was like, no, just scan everything. It's okay. We'll get through that process because I'm dealing with kind of a ripple effect injury, a low injury going up into the back because of weird gait. But same thing. My attorney's like, here's a list of providers that I've had really good experience with and will take care of you. And the whole process in my treatment is not a maximizing a benefit. It's maximizing my recovery. That's been the care of everyone I've dealt with. So if you have a lawyer that is immediately talking maximizing settlements, that's probably not the right attitude, because what you're hearing Robert say, what my experience has been with my local attorney, has been, how do we maximize your recovery? We'll figure everything else out later. This is the process it's going to take, but get well first, and then we're gonna go fighting, right? That's
Absolutely. And you know, my job, my first, last, and only job as an injury lawyer is to maximize your recovery within the bounds of the law and legal ethics. One of the ways that happens is getting a full picture of what your injuries are and what are the long-term consequences. And you know, and I kind of want to dovetail into, well, when should I call a lawyer, right? If you think you need to make an injury claim, call immediately. And I'll give you an anecdote of that. On some of the, I've got a case right now in Texas where I've got a motor carrier, and you want to know who the first phone call was from the driver of the alleged at-fault motor carrier was to? It was to his company safety guy. And his company safety guy called the police that same day, right? And so the insurance companies and the trucking companies and the large package delivery companies, when there's a collision, they have a system that wants to get involved immediately, and that will start their investigation immediately to the injured person's detriment. Right? They want to get to that person before that person calls a lawyer, and they want to do their investigation before a lawyer gets involved. And so
then quickly offer a settlement that's binding before you know what's happened.
Absolutely. Google the term swoop and settle. Right? If you Google the term swoop and settle, there should be a whole series of articles on how insurance companies and adjusters want to get to you before you hire a lawyer, and even sometimes they sort of poo-poo the idea of hiring a lawyer and say, oh, the lawyer's just going to take all your money, and they don't really care about you. But that's not because the insurance company cares about you. It's because they're trying to lower the amount of money that they are going to have to pay when they hurt people. The statistics are pretty amazing in that an injured person gets 3 times more money if they hire a lawyer.
You wish you could just have a company that they're trying to treat people fair, but now that most insurance companies seem to be publicly traded, they have to make more money upon more money every year. You can't have the same profit. You've got to make more, and it's done by not being responsible. So wrapping the medical, if you suspect an injury, don't delay. I really, had I gone a week earlier, I really wasn't feeling much before that, I'd be closer to being better. And like what Robert said is, the moment you start to feel, because of Robert and my sister, who's also a personal injury, the moment I started saying, I think I might be hurt, they both immediately said, find you a good local attorney, because the insurance company doesn't care about you. So anything else on that before we jump to the realities of insurance, which we kind of started into?
So in the injury, so what Jared's talking about, when you have an injury, and so for instance, Jared has a knee injury. What happens with knee injuries if you don't treat them is you start altering your gait. You alter the way you walk, and you'll tip from one side or the other, or you'll walk straight-legged, and then that can send problems down to your ankles and up to your back and your hips, and you can end up having other problems. And then the insurance companies will use the fact that you didn't go get treatment right away against you.
Again, I've got a great ortho who's looked at my knee and back pain and was like, you're walking completely wrong. Let's get your knee right and monitor and treat. He's like, take care of the main problem before we fully chase all the filter problems. And that is 100%. I did it wrong. My wife pointed out, it's like, you're walking with the straight leg. What's wrong? And Robert reaffirmed, don't take injuries lightly. Don't abuse the system, but also don't be abused.
Yeah. Well, and I don't, I don't like to say don't abuse the system because I have never had an issue in my practice where somebody was inventing a claim. I've had people call me and say, hey, I was in a car wreck, and I'll ask about it. And I'm like, are you hurt? And I'll ask them, are you hurt? And they're like, no, I need to know, because if you're not hurt, then there's nothing I can do for you. Right? And so while I could maybe once or twice I've had people call me and say they weren't hurt. And I said, then there's nothing for me to do. So like, I hear you've said things about not abusing the system. People don't, my personal experience is that the people that are the abusers in this are the insurance companies in the trucking industry. Now, are there lawyers who have done despicable things? Absolutely. Are there people that have made false claims? Absolutely. But you want to know what making a false insurance claim in Texas is? If the amount is high enough, it's a felony. Right? So there's criminal statutes about making false insurance claims in Texas. You want to know what the criminal penalty is for wrongfully denying a legitimate claim in Texas?
Probably $500.
There isn't one. Right? So making a false claim and it increases based on value, right? At some point, as it gets to a number value, it becomes a felony. There's no criminal statute for denying a valid claim. So, I hear you say, kind of, we don't need to make fake claims. But I'm not worried about that, right? The people that are listening to this video, I don't think are trying to figure out a way how I can game the system to make money off a car wreck. I mean, one of the, some of the stuff you've seen online is, like people will like pull in front of somebody and then slam on the brakes and get hit from behind. And then those are the kind of, fake claims that have been made in the past. I've never personally seen one. And so, but I do recognize that they happen, but I think overall the legal system does a good job of weeding out that kind of stuff.
Just get you a red Tiger dash cam, and that way you're protected from people like that.
Exactly.
So, insurance reality. So this is, again, we're not trying to make villains, but some people make villains of themselves. What is the insurance company trying to do right after the accident?
The insurance company's trying to find a way to either not pay a claim or pay as little money as possible.
All right, adjuster. I get a phone call from the adjuster. Do I have to talk to them? And what should I say or not say? Also understanding that call will be recorded. Like, hands down, that's recorded, and they're saving that for evidence, probably to use against you. So
I'm going to give you the lawyer answer here. It depends. Okay? My practice is when I represent people and they've been in a car wreck and they've got a property damage claim, and I'm dealing with the property damage claim side of it. What I tell all my clients is, you pay for the coverage, use it. If your insurance company will get their money from the other insurance company, right? But in Texas, your insurance company owes you a higher duty than the other person's insurance company. And so the way I've always talked to my clients about property damage claims is insurance companies will screw you just enough to piss you off, but not enough to make it worthwhile to do anything about it. And so if it's your insurance company and you are making your claim under your property damage coverage, in Texas we call it comprehensive and collision coverage, which covers the vehicle itself for car accidents and hail damage is kind of one of the common things. But if you want to use your coverage, you have an absolute duty to speak to your insurance company. If you don't talk to them and you don't cooperate with them, they will deny coverage based on that. As it relates to the other person's insurance, if you're in a position where you got to talk to the other person's insurance and it's just a property damage claim only, if you want to get paid by that insurance company for the damages caused by their insured, then you have to talk to them. But again, Keep it simple. And if you've got a lawyer, then you don't talk to the insurance company ever.
So, Robert's example of they will offer just enough to piss you off, but not enough to fight. That's where I'm still dealing with on values, where it's amazing. It's not quite enough to get the injury attorney on the property claim, but it's not enough. Again, I'm in a very blessed situation because there's people who don't have enough cars to drive. They have to immediately settle. There's so much. It's a system really that's built to take advantage of people. And there will be one or two people who want to defend them in the comments. I've had great personal experience with my insurance, and it's almost to the point that it's all going to go that way because it's not been going well. But they're not your friend. Their friend is their investors.
Their first duty is to their shareholders.
Last touch on insurance. This is kind of also for you. Should you carry just a state minimum to be legal to drive, Robert?
So let's just talk about Texas, right? I don't know anything about Georgia's insurance framework, but let me give you my Texas perspective. There's a phrase that is colloquially used across the country, and that people say, "I've got full coverage," right? There's no such thing, right? That is not a term in the insurance industry. You have insurance coverage, automobile insurance, and then you have different layers of insurance. And I've actually done a video of this on my Instagram page, which explains what I have, right? And so first off, you've got the state minimum liability limits, and then which in Texas are $30,000 per person, up to a maximum of $60,000 per collision, which with the cost of medical expenses, what they are today, is not a lot of money. And is there potential risk for somebody coming after you personally? Yes. Do I see it happen? Generally not. So I always tell people, get the most you can afford, right? Liability insurance is cheap. It's very inexpensive as it relates to other areas of coverage. So there's that. So, whatever you can afford, ask your insurer. If you're with any of the major national insurers, there's a 1-800 number on your insurance card, or if you've got an app, there's an app and you can contact somebody and you can ask about different layers of liability coverage. In addition to liability coverage for bodily injury, there's property damage. Again, get as much as you can afford.
Yeah, Georgia's 25, 50, 25, which that's even worse in Texas. It does not really.
Texas is 30, 60, 25.
Yeah.
So
you can't buy a car for $25,000 that we can. We buy
if you've got a
junkers,
car
but-
that you care about, then you want to carry comprehensive and collision coverage and potentially rental reimbursement, especially if you rely on that car to earn a living. Because as Jared said, in Georgia, according to what Jared said, they've got up to 60 days if you dispute it. 60 days for somebody who relies on their car for a living is a lifetime and potentially financially ruinous. If you can afford it, get comprehensive and collision and rental reimbursement. The problem is comprehensive and collision and rental is the most expensive insurance to get. And then in addition to that, there's different kinds of insurance products that cover you if you get injured. So there's uninsured / underinsured. So if somebody hits you and hurts you and it's their fault, so this is an at-fault policy, then your insurance company steps in to cover any damages that aren't covered by, say, somebody's got minimum Georgia limits or minimum Texas limits, and that's not enough money. So underinsured, uninsured motorist coverage is important, and that's relatively inexpensive. The next is personal injury protection coverage. That's a no-fault coverage. So if you get an automobile collision and regardless of whose fault it is, you can get money that will pay in Texas, generally covers medical bills and lost wages. And the numbers, the coverages in Texas start at $2,500, and some companies write all the way up to $100,000, but the most I usually see is $2,500 to $5,000 and sometimes $10,000.
But absolutely, because of the rallies, I'm around expensive cars. So, I personally carry 500, 1,500,000 on injury and comp. I'm near expensive stuff. My stuff's not worth that much, but if I remember, it was only 3 times more a month, which I understand. That can be significant for certain budgets, but to go from 25,000 to $500,000 for only 3 times as much a month, it's as much protecting yourself as protecting your assets. So also insurance salesmen, they're your best friend. So you can call and get all the rates.
Regardless of what kind of insurance, they will love to sell you products. I carry 1 million, 1,500,000. Yeah. And then I carry a million underinsured motorist coverage. Because the reality is the most likely place you are to be seriously injured is in your car. And so you want to have protection for yourself that you can cover and not rely on somebody else that they've got adequate coverage.
Common myths, because there is so much out there and assumptions and things that you need to do a certain way, or in my case, legitimately my biggest mistake, my accident wasn't that bad. It was a 7,000-pound vehicle hitting a 4,000-pound vehicle at 25 to 30 miles an hour. It's a lot of energy. Maybe I crashed a few too many cars, Robert. In my head, it wasn't significant, but it totaled 2 vehicles, and I punted a Grand Caravan 15 feet down the road. That was minor. So don't assume your collision wasn't minor, right? What else should we kind of hit?
I mean, that's kind of a big one. Don't assume it's minor. I mean, you talk about it as if a minor collision and both vehicles are totaled. That's a pretty major vehicle collision. And so,
yes,
that's on you. And your friend tried to steer you in the right direction as quickly as possible.
Listen to your friends if they're lawyers, and your family if they're also
not just lawyers. But I'm a lawyer that has done injury work as a lawyer for over 15 years and in the business 25. It's not like I'm a tax lawyer.
Listen, I'm being honest. This was my big mistake. It's a minor collision. I only ripped an engine out of a Grand Caravan and folded the frame on my Cadillac. That's minor.
And I think some of it has been a great PR campaign on behalf of the insurance companies, especially the big national providers that are emblazoned all over our TVs every day. They've made everybody believe, oh, well, if I get hurt, if something happens to me, I'll be taken care of, right? My medical bills will be paid and I will be fairly and reasonably compensated for my injuries. But in practice, the opposite is true. They're going to fight you on how much your medical bills are. They're going to say you weren't hurt, or if you were hurt, your injury's resolved and you don't need any future care, right? And so don't think that an insurance company, even your own, is going to take care of you.
Being nice, that's my problem. I'm a Southerner. I believe very much that you're going to catch a lot more flies with honey than vinegar. That's been tested on me. I'm normally the nicest man on the phone, and it works so well. Yeah, being nice to the insurance company, that works, right?
Always. Every time, you just call the adjuster and sweet talk them a little bit and be like, send them a link to your questionable garage YouTube videos and your social media pages, and they'll just cozy right up to you and fairly and reasonably compensate you with nothing other than a phone call. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not so much about being nice, right? It's about understanding the process. Understanding that insurance companies have armies of lawyers and staff whose sole job it is to minimize or deny claims. And, fortunately, there still exists an arena where there are lawyers that can level the playing field for you. And really, if you're in a car wreck and you think you might be injured, man, I hate to say call a lawyer, but call a lawyer. Right? Because if you go see your PCP and you tell them you were in a car wreck, you want to know how many times I've seen people be turned away from their primary care physicians or any physician that they turn people away for being in car wrecks because they don't want to deal with the process that comes along with it. And so, if you've been in a car wreck and it was somebody else's fault, the best thing you could do is call a lawyer. And I hate that it's gotten to that way, right? But because insurance companies do what they've done, that's why I have a job. And it's the unfortunate reality of the system in which we live.
Last big one before we kind of hit our closing topics. Social media, what should you post and not post?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I've drafted a client acknowledgement form that I haven't put in front of anybody yet, but that will say, I agree to put all my stuff, all my, Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media that you have, I agree to put it on private. I agree to not post anything. And I'm talking no posts, right?
So you wouldn't represent me.
Well, but that's your job, right? Like with you, it's different because it's your job and you have to be on social media to make a living.
Right.
That is the outlier, right? Like, I mean, I have people that just like constantly post to social media their daily updates every day. That's just nothing, really. And so if you're not on social media for a job and social media is not how you make your living, stay off of it. Stay off of it. Don't make any posts. Don't post any pictures. Maybe about, I think a little over 10 years ago, I had a young lady that had an Instagram page and it had back surgery, wrist surgery, and lost a finger in a golf cart rollover incident. And we're getting ready to try to get her case resolved, and she posts a picture on social media that says cannonball, and it's got, she's tucked up in a cannonball mid-flight doing a cannonball into a pool. And I was like, thanks. So, don't post that stuff. It's a lot more difficult for me to try to explain it away as your lawyer later on down the road than it is to not have to deal with it at all.
All right, so wrapping everything up. I know I was hoping a 20-minute thing, but honestly, I love talking with Robert. And I feel like we've covered some really good topics you might have known. Maybe you have some of your own advice you want to share, but our big, kind of the key takeaways, closing things. Robert, 3 things every driver should remember to do right after a crash.
Safety first. Safety first. Safety.
Off the road.
Am I okay? Can I get the cars off the road? If it's a major collision like Jared had and there's totaled vehicles, make sure you get out of the vehicle and get off the side of the road and get somewhere safe and call 911.
All right. Number 2.
If you think for 2 seconds or half a second or a tenth of a second that you're injured and you need to make a claim and it was somebody else's fault, you got to hire a lawyer immediately. You have to. And document your injuries.
And number 3.
Stay off of social media. If you're making a claim, stay off social media, and really more so than that, make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you go to your doctor's appointments. If you're hurt, go to the doctor. If you need to go to the doctor, you're hurt, go see a doctor, and make sure you follow up, and don't ignore your knee injuries that then cause back problems.
What, you mean my knee shouldn't be twice the size of the other one?
Generally not. Generally, large amounts of swelling and edema mean there's something bad going on.
Probably. Kind of tied into that, advice for someone first 24 hours after an accident. That really kind of ties in. If you feel like you're injured within a day, be reaching out. But what else should you look for in the first day or 2?
Generally speaking, if you are in a non-catastrophic collision, let's say you get rear-ended, the cars are drivable, but there's some damage, and you do get a police report, but everything's drivable, and you're walking away from the scene. Pay attention to your body. My partner's a workout professional, and she has a studio, and the first thing she asks all her clients is, how's your body feeling today? And in my years of working out with trainers and taking classes, they always ask, how's your body? So pay attention to your body. If your body's telling you, hey, I'm really hurt, like I really got a problem, then don't ignore that. As far as like right after, pay attention to your body, I'd say. And if you're hurt, do something about it.
Final thoughts, protecting yourself without panic. Like that's kind of one of our talking points we put together. I think it really boils a better translation, Robert. I would say there isn't a normal ache and pain after an accident. Yes, it's normal to have aches and pains after an accident, but it's not normal to be hurt. So the joke, seeing your doctor, So, how much do you hurt? Are you hurting? And you say the only, the normal amount. The normal amount isn't to hurt.
The normal amount of pain is 0, Jared.
Like Robert, I'm a big guy. I've lifted weights, played sports, crashed Cadillacs into Grand Caravans. But don't feel like you're a bad person for making injury claims. Like, you're protecting yourself. You're not panicking. There's nothing wrong. I just had it programmed in my head not to do it, not to make these efforts to reach out and take care of yourself. Like, there's no reason not to.
Absolutely. And I get what you're saying, Jared, and I have represented plenty of people in my life who are like, well, I'm not doing this for the money. It's like, you're not, but it's the only compensation system that we have in place. It's the one we have, right? And is it imperfect? Absolutely. Is pretty much every system of everything we have imperfect? Yes. But it's intended to make sure that people are compensated, that your medical expenses are paid for in the past and the future, and that you're able to get better. And, you're not a burden on anybody for making a claim. You're not a bad person. You're not sue happy. And that's another thing where the insurance companies have done a wonderful PR campaign of, everybody that makes a claim is, sue happy, lawsuit abuse, all this other stuff. And, are there cases like that exist? I'm sure there are. Is there a system in place that deals with those kinds of cases very, very harshly? Also, yes. And so, don't think for a second that, if you're in a car wreck and you're hurt and it was somebody else's fault, that making a claim or seeing a doctor somehow is a burden. Please don't. Go get checked out, because, Jared's fortunate that he has caught it and he is finally going to go get his medical treatment. But there's some people that will ignore literal broken bones and then have lifelong disabilities because they didn't do the treatment. And not getting medical treatment can also hurt the value of your claim.
Robert, thank you for doing this phone call. I know we planned it to be 20, 25 minutes. We're, I think, an hour deep into it. I hope you guys actually appreciate it, because this is about the extent of what I'm really supposed to be doing right now. If you saw me fidgeting and moving, my leg and back hurts. I need to kind of get up and stretch a little bit. It's a real thing, and my biggest mistake, personality trait, Robert brought it up. I've been honest about it. You just kind of deal with it. You accept it, and there's no reason to. I hope you guys have learned a little bit. I hope if you guys have had an experience, share it below. If you don't ever want to see me do this again or make a second podcast for Questionable Podcast where I can have Robert back again and we just talk dustball, I'll do that. This is just, it's December. This is my earnings month, and I can't work on cars. So I'm doing my best. So I hope you guys did appreciate it. Robert, again, thank you so much. I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices. And Robert?
Calling a personal injury lawyer isn't a questionable choice.
All right. We'll see you next time.